Yo, what is up? This is JJ from 845. Most independent photographers price the expected when it comes to shooting: pre-production, production day, and editing and post-production. One of the biggest things left on the table is usage, which is wild because this is usually where the real money sits. Photographers need to embrace the notion that clients aren't just paying for one to take photos. They are paying for permission to use them for their benefit. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you a real email inquiry, and then I'll show you how I use FotoQuote, a tool that I use to price web, internal, and digital ads, which are the big three that are applicable to me. Also, stick around as I share one simple multiple image discount move that feels like a win for them, but is really a win for you as it raises your grand total. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read you the emails that led up to this $12,000 image buyout. And again, that is just the tip of the iceberg because what's not included is my rate and travel and so forth. So let's go ahead and start with the email. This was on Friday, May 29th. Subject line was internal photography project inquiry, Silicon Valley. It goes, "Hi JJ, hope all is well." It goes in talking about where he's at as a producer, and this project is for Google. And they want lean, coverage heavy shoot across the day. We're not looking to build any highly constructed or overly staged setups, but rather capture natural feeling moments and interactions with real office environments. A few keynotes for scope: it's internal, natural light, 1 day shoot, around 60 final selects, 30 security, 30 hospitality, standard post-production, selection, color, light retouching, full copyright buyout. So Google ownership required. And then all releases are on site, will be managed on set. If you're available, could you please provide a quote? And then I replied, so you can see here that this was sent 8:40. I replied about 10 hours later. So I kind of have this internal rule, which is try to reply to any inquiries within a day and or 12 hours. So for me, this kind of hit that spot. And I even apologized. I said, "Hey, sorry for the delay," as I had wrapped a shoot that day, which is true. Showing you my numbers, but of course your numbers will vary. Talk about me saying, "Hey, thanks for reaching out. Pleasure hearing from you. This sounds like a great shoot." And I said, without having to send over an official estimate, meaning like I send it through my software, I want it to be quick, because for this ask, it is very straightforward in terms of the coverage, especially, it trying to run lean. And I said, cool. My initial hours is 2,500 for 2 initial hours, and then 350 per additional hour, and then $75 for my travel, mileage, and parking. I gave examples, as far as like they can click from there. And so he replied, on June 1st, "Hey, thanks so much for getting back to us and breaking down your rate." And then what's highlighted here that I wanted to point out was the client requires a formal copyright buyout where they will own the images. Could you let us know if your listed rate covers that ownership or if there is an additional fee for the buyout? So now I'm going to go ahead and come back here. And I said, well, for a full buyout, I essentially just double my event rate versus image buyout, which is typically $350 to $550 per image. They had also previously asked for like an assistant. I had understood it as a Digitech, and I said 1,200, but it was later corrected in the email, which you'll see. And I also have an example of an office setting because in their last email, they asked for an office setting and not just event coverage, which is what I had linked to. And I mentioned that you'll see proofs and then only 2 images that were edited as selected by the client in that gallery. And so the last email from here was saying, "Hey, could you let us know the buyout cost of just 30 images? And I said, with 30 images, I'm going to discount the image buyout at $400 each, making it $12,000. So start with this reframe. You're not selling JPEGs. You're selling permission. If they only need a couple of images for an internal deck, cool, that's one thing. But if they really want to pay paid social running for months, that is a different thing, even if the shoot today looks identical. So I basically live in 3 buckets when I'm quoting: web and social, meaning their brand site, blog, product pages, organic social, email headers, stuff like that. Internal use like decks, onboarding, intranet, all hands recaps, and even recruiting materials if they're actually staying inside. Then digital ads, which is paid social, display retargeting, app store placement, sponsor posts, all the stuff that's directly tied to spend. The workflow that stops the guessing starts on the discovery call. And I don't start with gear or deliverables. I start by defining what success looks like for final production. Then I ask where the images will live for real. Not the polite answer, the real answer. Who's posting them? What channels? Are they boosting it? Is there a media plan? And what's the rough timeline? Most clients don't have clean answers in the moment. So I push it into a follow-up. I consolidate stakeholder input into one doc, and then I work backward from deadline because deadlines force the truth. So if they say campaign launches in 4 weeks, then we need to confirm basically everything in the pre-production, starting with where are we shooting and who is the talent. Then I translate all of that language into clean usage terms: media, audience, duration, region, image count, and exclusivity. Media is where it shows up. Duration is how long they need it. The region is where it runs. Image count is how many they can use. Exclusivity is whether you can use it elsewhere or even show it yourself. Once you have those, the license writes itself. Now, when I use FotoQuote, I treat it like a coach, not like a calculator. I pick the closest category like web and social, internal corporate, digital advertising, and then I adjust the variables until it matches the actual plan, because a plan is what you're pricing. And FotoQuote gives you the ranges, which I use as a sanity check. Then I choose the number based on my risk, client size, and how visible the campaign is. If it's a small internal deck for a mid-sized company, that's a lower risk. If it's a big brand running paid social with a heavy spend, that's a higher risk, and the license price needs to reflect that. So let me show you what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It's a little old school, just giving you a heads up, but again, this thing works in terms of giving you the numbers that you can base your numbers off of. All right. So one of the first things actually is that when you get the software, under setup, you can put all your information here. So what's nice about this is if you are like really sending estimates from the software, you can actually. You can also even configure this to have your logo, your signature, and so forth. But let's go into the heart of it under FotoQuote. I already have your selected website and editorial. And remember, the initial ask was for it to be internal, right? And also for a full buyout. So what I end up doing here for a full buyout means obviously indefinitely. But again, I'm using a website and editorial as an example. And you'll see here that what's nice about here is you can go ahead and search the categories, right? So let's say you're doing advertising, it's electronic, or maybe it's actually for a print. They have categories over here and even nonprofits, for example. But I'm going to go ahead and stick with editorial and corporate web, okay, which is what it is. And let's just say that what we're doing is like, even for here, even has social media post or profile or cover. And what's nice about the software is that it kind of gives you more information. So for example, it's going to define what it is: commercial or promotional use, where the image is displayed in a web-based social community network, designed to engage people to connect or collaborate. No paid advertising space permitted with this use. Longer duration includes use for cover and profile use. And then again, if you're working with a nonprofit, you could charge approximately 50% less, right? So again, what's good about FotoQuote is that this is basically the benchmark. It's pulling information from what is nationally being used and even internationally. You can see right here, geographic, US only. And then it gives you a really good baseline for you to start on. And my thing when it comes to charging is that you have to have the ability to scale, and FotoQuote helps you do that, right? So let me go back into the website editorial. It's not like a full like internal or as what was originally asked for, but this does give you more insight into that, right? So let's just say if this was supposed to be used for a day, and let's just actually make this a full page, 1 day usage for an editorial is going to be roughly $156. And you can see here that there is a range, right? So 117 on the lower end, on the higher end, 234. Well, what happens if we just kind of bump this into 1 year? Okay. 1 year, a full page. Again, don't know the exact specifics, but I'm just going to go for like full resolution at this point, right? So 1 year at full page is going to be roughly $416. 2 years, you can see it's $499. So I'm basing it off of those numbers here. And so when I'm presenting this to the client, which I did, I chose a number that I was happy with. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to that: is what are you content with in terms of charging, and then of course scaling to it. Now, what I ended up doing was saying, hey, I'm giving a discount because I did give that range, right? I previously had mentioned that it was between $350 and $550 for a full buyout. And so for this, I'm making sure that they are getting a deal And so that's what I'm doing, is that I've applied a discount. Lastly, on FotoQuote, one of the cool features that I do like is this tab called Coach. Now I'm still on website editorial. It's giving me the definition of what that is as far as what low resolution, medium resolution, and so forth. But if you click Coach, it'll open up here and it actually just gives you some tips, right? So business steps to a sale, details of the step to a sale. Step number 1, initial contact, create a pleasant phone atmosphere. And B, this is a business meeting and you are the host. Step 2, get information, right? So again, you can kind of refer to this and kind of just better prepare yourself for these meetings. For example, get information, find out how the client will use your photo to add value to his or her product by asking the following questions and recording the answers on the FotoQuote phone order form. Why did you choose my photo? Knowing what they think is unique about your photo will help you understand how hard it will be for them to find a replacement image from another source. Another question, how will you use my photo in your product? So things like this, right, definitely helps. I honestly just go through this because you can actually go through here, choose a coach topic. For example, business photography, business advice, right? Things like this kind of makes this tool invaluable and honestly just adds to the overall tools that you're supposed to have when it comes to making a sale on photography. Now we can go back to the video. At the end of the day, I want the license to read like plain English so both sides know what yes means. No vague, all usage included, no fuzzy, unlimited, just clean terms that match what they told you. And with that being all said, today's sponsor, at no surprise, is FotoQuote. And to start using it with a 25% discount until the end of June 2026, use this code that you see on screen. And if you're watching this after, see video description to still get 10% off. This is the exact tool that I'm using to stop guessing on web, internal, digital ads, licensing. But again, it covers a whole lot too. So here's a negotiation move that changed everything for me, is the multiple image discount. And I set the first image at a full usage value because that's the benchmark. That's a true number for permission for it to be used. Then I offer a structured discount on images 2, 3, 10, and whatever the batch is so the client feels like they won, but my total license number climbs. They're buying more value, you're giving them a better per image deal, and the estimate feels easier to prove because it reads like a volume purchase, not like a random fee. And one more piece, I mostly use this for new images we're creating. Usage guides the shot list because every frame now has a job. That pushes tighter pre-production, storyboards, select lists, must-have angles, and alternate different placements. On set, it keeps you from chasing random nice-to-have shots that don't map to paid usage. With that being said, this doesn't prevent you from charging the client once the license use expires. At that point, you're now charging usage if and when the client still needs it. If they push back on licensing, I keep it simple. If it's just web, cool, I price web. If it's paid ads, I charge for paid ads. Same shoot, different permission. So here's your challenge. The next time you're on a discovery call, keep a tiny checklist open when you're on that call. Gather the information like media channels, paid versus organic, the duration of the image to be used, the region, image count, and exclusivity to better prepare an estimate. Don't let all usage included slide without a real conversation and without a real number. And again, the software that I use to price all of this is called FotoQuote. I, of course, strongly recommend it. And if you want to be able to grab it, you can get it 25% off until the end of this month, June 2026. Otherwise, if you're watching this after June 2026, you can still use my 10% code, which you'll see in the video description. And lastly, feel free to leave a comment on this video with what your client would ask for, like internal plus paid social 12 months, and I'll let you know which bucket I'd start in. Until next time, peace.